I watched the denied stamp hit my application for the 10th time today, and that's when I heard his voice behind me. The man whose name was usually whispered in hushed, terrified tones in boardroom meetings. Your talent is being wasted on people who are afraid of a shadow, Elliot. Come with me. I should probably start from the beginning, shouldn't I? Because the moment Silas Vane spoke those words to me in that cramped personnel office, my entire world shifted on its axis. But to understand why those words meant everything, you need to know just how far I'd fallen. 3 months earlier, I had everything. Well, not everything, but I had a career I loved, a portfolio that was starting to get noticed, and what I thought was a relationship that mattered. Marcus and I had been together for 2 years. He was a senior marketing director at Eclipse Media, one of the biggest advertising firms in the city, and I was a freelance graphic designer trying to make my name mean something in an industry that chewed up and spat out talent like sunflower seeds. Marcus was charming. God, he was so charming. The kind of man who knew exactly what to say to make you feel seen, special, like you were the only person in the room who mattered. He'd take me to gallery openings, introduce me to people whose business cards alone could launch careers, and whisper in my ear that one day everyone would know my name. I believed him. I was such an idiot. The breakup happened on a Tuesday. I remember because I'd just finished a major project for a boutique fashion brand, something I'd poured my heart into, something that finally felt like me and not just what clients wanted. I was flying high, ready to celebrate with Marcus over dinner at our favorite Italian place. Instead, he met me at my apartment door with a face like stone. "We need to talk," he said, and those 4 words drained all the color from the world. He told me he'd met someone else, someone more established, someone who moved in the right circles, someone who could elevate his brand. Those were his exact words, elevate his brand. Like our relationship had been nothing more than a strategic partnership that had outlived its usefulness. I was devastated, but I thought, naively, stupidly, that we could at least be professional, that we could move forward as adults, that the connections I'd made through him would still matter because I'd earned them with my work, not just because I was sleeping with him. I was wrong about that too. The first rejection came a week later. A company I'd done freelance work for, good work they'd praised effusively, suddenly ghosted me when I pitched a new project. Then another, interview after interview where I could see the interest in their eyes die the moment they glanced at their phone or computer screen, like they'd received a message that changed everything. It took me almost a month to figure out what was happening. A former colleague, someone who still had a shred of decency, pulled me aside at a coffee shop and told me the truth over a cappuccino that tasted like ashes in my mouth. Marcus was telling people I was difficult to work with, that I stole ideas, that I had emotional problems that made me unreliable. He was systematically destroying my reputation, whispering poison into every ear that mattered, ensuring that every door I approached would slam shut before I could even knock. And the worst part? People believed him. Because Marcus had the credibility, the position, the network, and I was just Elliot Chen, 23 years old, talented but unproven, expendable. I tried to fight back at first. I sent emails with my portfolio, with testimonials from satisfied clients, with proof of my professionalism. But it was like shouting into a hurricane. Marcus's influence was too pervasive, too deeply rooted. Every bridge I tried to build, he burned before the concrete could set. By the time I found myself in that personnel office, the 10th rejection of a single day, I was running on fumes. My savings were nearly gone, my confidence was shattered. I'd started wondering if maybe Marcus was right, if maybe I wasn't good enough, if maybe I should just give up and find something else to do with my life. That's when Silas Vane appeared. I'd heard of him, of course. Everyone had. Silas Vane was a legend in the city's business world. The man who'd built Vane Industries from a single architectural firm into an empire that touched everything from real estate to media to technology. At 35, he was already more successful than most people would be in 3 lifetimes. Magazines called him ruthless. His competitors called him terrifying. His employees called him exacting, but fair. I'd never expected to meet him, let alone have him speak directly to me. He was taller than I expected, which was saying something because I had seen him in photographs. But in person, Silas Vane had a presence that couldn't be captured on paper or screen. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than my rent for 6 months, and his dark hair was touched with just enough silver at the temples to make him look distinguished rather than old. But it was his eyes that caught me, gray like storm clouds, intelligent and assessing in a way that made me feel simultaneously exposed and seen. "I'm sorry?" I managed to stammer, still holding the rejection letter that had just been handed to me. "I don't understand." Silas tilted his head slightly, and I caught the barest hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth. "You're Elliot Chen. You designed the luminescence campaign for Stella Brand last spring. The work was exceptional, bold, innovative, exactly what the brand needed. I wanted to hire you for a project 6 weeks ago, but my HR department told me you were unavailable due to reputation concerns." My face burned with humiliation. Even Silas Vane had heard the rumors. "I don't take what I hear at face value, Mr. Chen," he continued, as if reading my thoughts. "So I did my own research. I spoke to your actual clients, not just the gossip network. I reviewed your portfolio in detail, and I looked into who was spreading the stories about you and why." "You know about Marcus Hale," I said quietly. It wasn't a question. "I know that Marcus Hale is a petty man who can't stand the idea that someone he once controlled might succeed without him," Silas said, his tone as cool and factual as if he were discussing the weather. "I know that he's been systematically sabotaging your career because his ego can't handle the breakup. And I know that allowing such behavior to go unchallenged is bad for business and worse for the industry as a whole." I stared at him, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Why do you care?" Something shifted in his expression, not quite warmth, but something close to it. "Because talent like yours shouldn't be wasted because someone else is afraid of their own inadequacy. Because I respect integrity, and everything I've learned about you suggests you have it. And because, frankly, I have a project that requires your specific skills, and I don't let other people's politics interfere with my business decisions." He pulled a business card from his jacket pocket and handed it to me. The cardstock was thick, expensive, embossed with silver lettering. "My office, tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. We'll discuss the details of a contract, a real one, with real pay and real respect for your work, unless you'd prefer to keep collecting rejection letters." I should feel elated. Instead, I felt suspicious. 2 months of constant rejection had taught me that nothing came without strings, without catches, without hidden costs. "What's the catch?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Silas Vane regarded me with those storm-gray eyes, and for a moment I thought I saw approval there. "The catch is that I expect excellence. The catch is that I don't tolerate excuses or mediocrity. The catch is that if you accept this opportunity, you'll be working directly with me, which means your work will be scrutinized more carefully than it ever has been before." He paused. "But there are no other catches, Mr. Chen. No hidden agendas, no expectations beyond professional ones. Just an opportunity to do what you do best without someone sabotaging you at every turn." I looked down at the card in my hand, then back up at him. "You know why you care." "I saw what you meant by your work. I saw that you really cared about getting it right. That makes a difference to me. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Don't be late." And then he was gone, leaving me standing in that dingy personnel office with a business card that felt like a lifeline and a head full of questions I couldn't begin to answer. I didn't sleep that night. I spent hours researching Vane Industries, reading every article I could find about Silas Vane, trying to understand what I was walking into. Everything I read painted the same picture: brilliant, demanding, impossibly successful, and completely uninterested in personal drama. He was known for making decisions based purely on merit, for promoting people who delivered results regardless of their background or connections. If even half of what I read was true, this could be exactly what I needed. A chance to rebuild, to prove myself, to escape Marcus's shadow. Or it could be another disappointment waiting to crush what little hope I had left. I arrived at Vane Industries 15 minutes early, my portfolio clutched against my chest like armor. The building itself was stunning, all glass and steel, and clean lines that spoke of brilliance and innovation. Modern elegance without ostentation. The lobby alone was more impressive than most of the offices I'd interviewed at. A receptionist who looked like she belonged on a runway directed me to the executive floor, where Silas's assistant, a sharply dressed woman named Catherine who radiated competent efficiency, ushered me into an office that took my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, offering a view that made everything feel simultaneously small and infinite. The office itself was minimalist but warm, with dark wood furniture, abstract art that actually meant something, and shelves lined with books that looked read rather than decorative. Silas stood at the window, silhouetted against the morning light, and when he turned to face me, I felt that same jolt of presence I'd experienced the day before. "Mr. Chen, punctual. That's a good start." He gestured to a chair across from his desk. "Please, sit. Would you like coffee? Tea?" "Coffee would be great, thank you," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He pressed a button on his desk, requested 2 coffees from Catherine, and then sat across from me, his attention focused entirely on me in a way that was both unnerving and oddly flattering. "I'm going to be direct with you, Elliot," he said, using my first name for the first time. "I need a complete rebranding package for a new division of Vane Industries. We're launching a sustainable architecture initiative, and I want the visual identity to reflect innovation, environmental responsibility, and forward thinking without feeling preachy or sterile. I've seen your work, and I believe you can deliver something exceptional." He slid a folder across the desk to me. Inside was a comprehensive brief, detailed, thoughtful, exactly the kind of project that would let me showcase everything I was capable of. The timeline is aggressive, 6 weeks from concept to final deliverables. The pay is competitive. He named a figure that made my eyes widen. It was more than I'd made in the last 6 months combined. And if the work meets my standards, there will be more projects, potentially a permanent position if that interests you. I looked up from the folder, my mind racing. This is incredible. But I have to ask, why are you doing this? You could have your pick of established firms, people with bigger names and more resources. Silas leaned back in his chair, studying me with those penetrating gray eyes. "I've worked with the established firms you're talking about. They're competent, professional, and utterly predictable. They give me exactly what I ask for, nothing more, nothing less. There's no passion, no genuine creativity, just formula and polish." He paused. "Your work has something different. It has heart. It takes risks. It tells stories. That's what I need for this project." "And the fact that hiring me will bother Marcus Hale?" I asked quietly. A ghost of a smile touched Silas's lips. "That's merely a pleasant side effect. Make no mistake, Elliot. I'm offering you this opportunity out of charity or to make a point to your ex-boyfriend. I'm offering it because I believe you're the right person for the job. What Marcus Hale thinks or feels about it is completely irrelevant to me." Catherine arrived with coffee in actual china cups, not paper or plastic, and I took a sip to buy myself a moment to think. The coffee was perfect, rich and smooth, probably some expensive blend I'd never heard of. Everything about this felt surreal. Yesterday I'd been drowning, and today I was being offered not just a life preserver, but a yacht. "I'll do it," I said, setting down the cup. "I'll give you everything I have. You won't regret this." "I know," Silas said simply. "I don't make decisions I'll regret." The next 6 weeks were the most intense, challenging, exhilarating period of my professional life. Silas wasn't exaggerating when he said he expected excellence. He reviewed every sketch, every color palette, every font choice with an attention to detail that would have been intimidating if it wasn't so clearly coming from a place of genuine investment in the project. But he wasn't cruel about it. When something didn't work, he explained exactly why, often teaching me things about branding strategy and market positioning that I never learned in school. When something did work, he acknowledged it with a simple good, or exactly right, that somehow meant more than effusive praise from other clients. And slowly, carefully, he started to show me a side of himself that I suspect few people ever saw. It started small. I was working late one evening, so absorbed in refining a logo concept that I didn't notice the time until Silas appeared in the doorway of the design studio he'd set up for me. "It's past 8. Have you eaten?" I'll grab something on the way home." "The building cafeteria is closed, and you've been here since 6 this morning." He pulled out his phone. "I'm ordering dinner. Preferences?" "You don't have to." "Preferences, Elliot," he repeated, his tone leaving no room for argument. Anything vegetarian?" He nodded and made a call, speaking in rapid Cantonese to whoever was on the other end. 20 minutes later, we were eating incredible Thai food in his office, talking about everything from design philosophy to our favorite books to the challenges of sustainable development in modern cities. It was the first time I'd seen Silas truly relaxed, the cold professional veneer softening into something warmer, more human. He was funny when he allowed himself to be, with a dry wit that caught me off guard and made me laugh in a way I hadn't in months. Another time, I came to work and found a package on my desk, an high-end ergonomic chair, the kind that cost as much as a used car. "Your posture has been terrible," Silas said when I tried to thank him. "Bad posture leads to back pain, which leads to reduced productivity. It's a practical investment, nothing more." But his eyes were warm when he said it, and I knew it was more than just practical concern. He noticed things. When I came in shivering because the autumn weather had turned cold and my coat was inadequate, a new coat appeared in my studio the next day. Charcoal gray cashmere, perfectly tailored, with a note that simply said, "Winter is coming. Dress appropriately. SV." When I stayed late working on revisions, he stayed too, even though I knew he had other things he could be doing. Sometimes we worked in comfortable silence, sometimes we talked. And slowly, I started to realize that what was developing between us was more than just a professional relationship. I was falling for him. God, I was falling so hard for Silas Vane, and I had no idea what to do about it. He was 12 years older than me, impossibly successful, completely out of my league in every conceivable way. And even if none of that mattered, he was my employer. Getting involved with him would be complicated at best, disastrous at worst. But I couldn't stop the way my heart raced when he smiled at me, or the way I looked forward to our late-night conversations more than anything else in my day, or the way his rare praise made me feel like I could conquer the world. 4 weeks into the project, everything came to a head in the worst possible way. I was in my studio, putting the finishing touches on the brand guidelines document when Catherine buzzed me. "Elliot, there's someone here to see Mr. Vane. He says it's urgent and concerns you. A Marcus Hale?" My blood ran cold. Don't let him... But it was too late. I heard Marcus's voice in the hallway, loud and aggressive, demanding to see Silas immediately. I ran towards Silas's office, arriving just in time to see Marcus push past Catherine and storm through the door. Marcus looked exactly the same, handsome in a conventional way, dressed in his designer suits, radiating the kind of confidence that came from never having to question whether he belonged. But now I could see the ugliness underneath, the cruelty that I'd been too naive to recognize when we were together. "Vane," Marcus said, planting his hands on Silas's desk. "We need to talk about Elliot Chen. I see you've hired him, which means either you don't do your due diligence or you don't care about your company's reputation." Silas looked up from his computer, his expression utterly calm. He didn't stand, didn't raise his voice, didn't show even a flicker of concern. "Mr. Hale, you have 30 seconds to justify why I shouldn't have security remove you from my building." Marcus faltered a moment, clearly not expecting such a cold reception. I'm trying to help you. Elliot is trouble. He's unstable, unprofessional. He'll steal your ideas and claim credit for work he didn't do. I've seen it firsthand. I dated him. I know what he's like, and I'm telling you as a professional courtesy that you're making a mistake." I felt sick hearing Marcus spin his lies with such conviction, such practiced ease. This was what he'd been doing to me for months, and hearing it directed at Silas made me want to disappear into the floor. But Silas just looked at Marcus with something that might be pity if there was any warmth in it at all.
"Are you finished?" Silas asked. "I'm trying to warn you. You're finished," Silas said, his voice like ice. "Sit down, Mr. Hale. Since you've gone to the trouble of coming here, I'll give you the courtesy of a response." Marcus sat, looking less confident now, and I stood frozen in the doorway, unable to move or speak. Silas steepled his fingers and regarded Marcus with those storm-gray eyes. "I'm aware of your relationship with Elliot. I'm aware that you've been systematically sabotaging his career since your breakup. I'm aware of every lie you've told, every opportunity you've destroyed for him, every piece of slander you've spread through your network." Marcus's face went pale. "I don't know what he told you, but—" "He didn't tell me anything," Silas cut him off. "I conducted my own investigation because, unlike you, I don't make business decisions based on gossip and personal vendettas. I spoke to Elliot's actual clients, the ones you couldn't intimidate into silence. I reviewed his work objectively. I looked into your allegations and found them to be completely without merit." Silas stood now, and despite being only slightly taller than Marcus, he seemed to tower over him. "Would you like to know what else I found, Mr. Hale? I found that you've been taking credit for work your junior staff created. I found that you've been padding your expense reports. I found that you've been violating the non-compete clause in your contract with Eclipse Media by doing freelance work for their competitors. Shall I continue?" Marcus's face had gone from pale to red. "You can't prove any of that." "I already have," Silas said coldly. "I sent a comprehensive file to Eclipse Media's CEO this morning. I imagine you'll be hearing from their legal department shortly." He walked around his desk, moving closer to Marcus. "You attempted to destroy a talented young designer's career because your ego couldn't handle rejection. You used your position and influence not to build something worthwhile, but to tear someone down out of spite. That kind of behavior is not only unprofessional, it's pathetic." "You self-righteous bastard," Marcus snarled, standing up. "You think you're so much better than everyone else, but you're just—" "I am better than you," Silas said simply, "by every metric that matters, professionally, ethically, and as a human being. Now get out of my building before I have you removed." Marcus looked at me then, his eyes full of hate and something that might have been fear. "You'll regret this, Elliot. Both of you will regret this." "No," I said quietly, finding my voice for the first time. "The only thing I regret is wasting 2 years of my life with someone who turned out to be so small. Goodbye, Marcus." Security did end up escorting Marcus out, and Catherine brought us both coffee with a knowing look that suggested she'd heard everything. When we were alone, I looked at Silas, my emotions a tangled mess of gratitude and shock, and something deeper I wasn't ready to name. "You didn't have to do that," I said. "Yes, I did," Silas replied, his voice softer now. "I don't tolerate bullies, Elliot, and I protect what's mine." The way he said mine made my heart skip a beat. "Are you mine?" He was quiet for a long moment, and I saw something vulnerable flash across his face, an uncertainty that seemed foreign to someone so confident and controlled. "I came out more possessive than I intended. What I meant is that you're part of Vane Industries now, part of my team, and I protect my team." It was a retreat, a professional boundary being carefully reinstated, and I should have been relieved. Instead, I felt disappointed. The final 2 weeks of the project flew by in a blur of work and tension and unspoken feelings that filled every silence between us. The sustainable architecture brand identity was coming together beautifully, bold without being harsh, organic without being cliché, innovative without being alienating. It was the best work I'd ever done, and I knew it. So did Silas. "This is extraordinary," he said during our final review meeting, studying the comprehensive brand book I'd created. "This is exactly what I envisioned, but better. You've exceeded every expectation, Elliot." I felt my cheeks warm with pleasure at his praise. I had a good client, one who knew what he wanted and wasn't afraid to push me to deliver my best. "I'd like you to stay on permanently," Silas said, looking up from the brand book to meet my eyes. "As creative director for Vane Industries, you'd have your own department, full benefits, a significant salary increase. You'd be working on projects across all our divisions." It was everything I could have wanted professionally, everything I dreamed of when I was still naive enough to believe Marcus's promises. "I'd be working directly with you?" I asked. "Frequently, yes." "Then I have to say no." Silas's expression shifted to surprise, and I rushed to explain before I lost my nerve. "Not because I don't want the job, not because I'm not grateful for everything you've done for me, but because staying here, working with you every day, seeing you constantly, having these moments of connection, I can't do that while pretending I don't have feelings for you." The silence that followed was deafening. I'd done it. I'd crossed the line, ruined everything, proven that Marcus was right about me being unprofessional and letting emotions cloud my judgment. "Elliot," Silas started, but I couldn't stop now. "I know it's inappropriate, I know you're my employer, that you're older, that this whole situation is probably a terrible idea, but I can't pretend anymore. These past 6 weeks have been the best of my life, not just because you saved my career, but because I got to know you, the real you, not just the legend everyone whispers about. And I fell for you, Silas, completely and hopelessly. Fell for you." I forced myself to meet his eyes, to face whatever rejection was coming with at least a shred of dignity. "So I can't work for you permanently because I can't be around you every day, seeing you, talking to you, having these moments of connection, and know that it can never be more than professional. I'm not strong enough for that." Silas stood slowly, walking around his desk until he was standing directly in front of me. His hand reached out, fingers gently tilting my chin up so I had to look at him. "Do you know why I went to that personnel office the day we met?" he asked softly. I shook my head, unable to speak with him this close, his touch sending electricity through my skin. "Because I'd been tracking your applications for weeks. Every time you applied somewhere and got rejected, my assistant notified me. I wanted to see if you'd give up, if the pressure would break your spirit. But you kept trying, kept believing in yourself despite everything Marcus had done. And when I saw you there, holding that rejection letter with this look of determined devastation on your face," he paused, his thumb brushing gently against my jawline, "I knew I had to meet you, had to know if you were as remarkable in person as you seemed on paper." "And I was?" I whispered. "You were more," he said. "You were talented and resilient and genuine in a way I'd forgotten existed in this city. And over these past 6 weeks, watching you work, talking to you, learning who you are beneath the professional facade, I've been falling for you too, Elliot. Fighting it every day because I didn't want to take advantage of my position, didn't want to pressure you or make you feel obligated." My heart was racing so fast I thought it might burst from my chest. "You have feelings for me?" "Profound ones," he admitted, and there was something beautifully vulnerable in his expression. "I've been alone for a very long time, Elliot. I've had relationships, but nothing that felt real. Nothing that made me want to come to work early just to see someone smile, or stay late just to hear their thoughts about art and sustainability, and whether pineapple belongs on pizza. I know, for the record, pineapple on pizza is a crime against Italian cuisine. I know, you've made your position very clear." He smiled, and it transformed his entire face from stern and professional to warm and almost boyish. "But my point is that you make me feel things I thought I'd outgrown or lost the capacity for. And if you're willing to take a chance on this, on us, I'd like to explore what this could be." "What about the job? The professional complications?"
You finish this project as a contractor. We complete our professional relationship cleanly. Then, if you want, I can help you set up your own design firm. Vane Industries would be a client, but you'd be independent, your own boss. Or you could take the creative director position, and we keep our personal and professional lives separate. Or you could do something else entirely. Whatever you want, whatever makes you comfortable. Because this isn't about me controlling you or having power over you. This is about two people who found something genuine and rare and being brave enough to pursue it despite the complications. I reached up, placing my hand over his, where it still cupped my face. I want this. I want you. The complications, the age difference, the professional tangles, none of it matters as much as the way I feel when I'm with you. And how do you feel? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Safe, valued, challenged, seen, like I can be exactly who I am without pretending or performing or hiding, like I'm home. Silas pulled me closer, his other hand settling at the small of my back, and I could feel the rapid beating of his heart against my chest. I'm going to kiss you now, if that's all right. It's very all right, I breathed. And he did. The kiss was everything and nothing like I'd imagined. Soft but sure, tender but intense, tasting of coffee and promise and new beginnings. His hands were gentle, holding me like I was something precious, and I melted into him, wrapping my arms around his neck, finally giving in to the magnetic pull I'd been fighting for weeks. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Silas rested his forehead against mine. I should take you to dinner, properly, somewhere nice, court you the way you deserve to be courted. You have been, I said. Every coffee you brought me, every time you stayed late to keep me company, every small act of care you tried to disguise as practical concern, that was courtship, Silas, the best kind, because it was real and understated and completely you. He pulled back enough to look at me, and the emotion in his eyes made my breath catch. You see me, he said wonderingly, really see me, not just the reputation or the money or the influence. I see you, I confirmed, and I love what I see. It was too soon to say those 3 big words, but the feeling was there, growing with every moment, and I could see in his eyes that he felt it too. Come home with me tonight, Silas said. Not for anything physical, just to talk, to be together without the office around us. I want to cook you dinner and show you my book collection and hear about your childhood and your dreams of one day having your own design studio, your fear that you'll never escape Marcus's shadow. You already have, Silas said, stirring the pasta with expert precision. The moment you walked into my office and accepted that opportunity, you stepped out of his shadow and into your own light. Everything that happens from here is yours, Elliot. Your success, your growth, your future. It's all yours to shape. After dinner, we curled up on his couch, and he showed me his favorite books, and we talked about everything and nothing until the early hours of the morning. At some point, I fell asleep with my head on his shoulder, and I woke to find myself covered with a blanket, Silas still beside me, watching me with an expression so tender it made my chest ache. Hi, I mumbled sleepily. Hi yourself, he said, brushing hair back from my forehead. It's 5 in the morning. I should take you home. Or I could stay. We could watch the sunrise together.
So we did. We moved to the floor-to-ceiling windows in his living room and watched the city wake up, the sky shifting from black to deep blue to pink and gold, and I leaned back against his chest while his arms wrapped around me, holding me close. I never thought I'd have this, I admitted quietly. After Marcus, I thought maybe I was broken somehow, or that I'd never be able to trust anyone again. You're not broken, Silas said firmly. You're resilient and brave and more whole than most people ever managed to be. Marcus tried to break you, but he failed, and now you get to build something better, something real. With you? "If you'll have me," he said. "I know I'm not easy. I work too much, I can be demanding and cold when I'm stressed. I have a reputation that comes with scrutiny and expectations. But I promise you that I will never lie to you, never try to control you, never use my position or influence to diminish you. You will always be my equal, Elliot, in every way that matters." I turned in his arms so I could face him properly. "And I promise that I'll challenge you, support you, be honest with you even when it's hard. I'll remind you to take breaks and eat proper meals and that there's a world beyond boardrooms and profit margins. I'll be your partner, Silas, not your employee or your accessory." "Partners," he agreed, and sealed the promise with a kiss. The next few months were a whirlwind of change and growth and happiness I'd never imagined possible. I finished the sustainable architecture project and launched my own design studio with Silas's help. Not his money, because I insisted on building it myself, but his advice, his connections, and his unwavering support. Vane Industries was my first major client, but not my only one. Word spread quickly that I was talented and professional, and, most importantly, not the disaster Marcus had painted me to be. Work poured in, more than I could handle alone, and I hired my first employee, a brilliant young designer I'd met at a networking event who reminded me of myself a year ago, talented but overlooked. Marcus did try to cause more trouble. He threatened lawsuits, spread more rumors, even attempted to sabotage some of my new client relationships. But every time he tried something, Silas was there, not fighting my battles for me, but standing beside me, reminding me that I had the power to fight back, that Marcus's influence was nothing compared to my actual talent and integrity. Eventually, Marcus's own behavior caught up with him. Eclipse Media fired him after discovering the extent of his contract violations and ethical breaches. Other companies in the industry blacklisted him for his unprofessional conduct. The last I heard, he'd left the city entirely, forced to rebuild his career somewhere his reputation hadn't preceded him. I didn't celebrate his downfall. I didn't need to. I was too busy building my own success, my own life, to waste energy on revenge or schadenfreude. Silas and I kept our relationship private for the first few months, wanting to build something solid before exposing it to public scrutiny. But eventually, we stopped hiding. I attended events with him, he supported my studio launch, and when business magazines speculated about Silas Vane's mysterious boyfriend, we didn't confirm or deny, but we didn't hide either. The reaction was mixed. Some people were supportive, others were judgmental about our age difference or the professional connection that had brought us together, but we didn't let it touch us, didn't let other people's opinions shape what we knew to be true, that we'd found something real and rare and worth fighting for. 1 year after that fateful day in the personnel office, Silas took me back to the place where we'd met. The building had been renovated, the dingy office replaced with a bright, modern space, but the memory remained. "Do you remember what I said to you that day?" Silas asked, holding my hand as we stood in the spot where our story had begun. "Your talent is being wasted on people who are afraid of a shadow. Come with me." "I meant every word," he said. "But I had no idea then that you weren't just talented. You were brave and resilient and genuine and everything I didn't know I was looking for. You weren't just a good designer, Elliot. You are, the person who made me remember what it feels like to hope for something beyond the next acquisition or the next profit margin." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small box, and my heart stopped beating entirely. "I'm not asking you to marry me," Silas said quickly, seeing my expression. "Not yet. I know we're still building this, still learning each other, but I wanted to give you something that represents what you mean to me, what this year has meant." He opened the box to reveal a ring, white gold with a single, perfect sapphire, the exact color of the sky on the morning we'd watched the sunrise together. "It's a promise," Silas said softly. "A promise that I'm committed to this, to us, to building a future together. A promise that you'll never have to face anything alone again, that you'll always have someone in your corner who believes in you unconditionally. A promise that this is real, Elliot, and I'm all in." I was crying now.
tears streaming down my face as I held out my hand and let him slide the ring onto my finger. "I'm all in too," I said through my tears. "Completely, irrevocably, all in." He pulled me into his arms, and I held him tight, feeling the solid, real warmth of him, the steady beat of his heart against mine. 2 years ago, I'd been broken and lost, convinced that my career was over and my heart was too damaged to risk again. I'd watched rejection after rejection pile up, felt the weight of Marcus's betrayal crushing me, believed that I'd never escape the shadow he'd cast over my life. But then, Silas Vane had appeared, not as a savior, but as a partner, someone who saw my worth when everyone else saw only the lies they'd been told, someone who challenged me to be better, supported me when I stumbled, and loved me for exactly who I was. He'd given me more than just a job or a second chance. He'd given me the space to rebuild myself, the confidence to fight back, and the courage to believe that I deserved good things, real things, lasting things. And in return, I'd given him something he'd been missing too. Someone who saw past the legend to the man underneath. Someone who reminded him that success wasn't just about profit margins and acquisitions, but about connection and purpose and building something that mattered. We'd saved each other, really. Not in some dramatic, sweeping gesture, but in small moments of care and honesty and choosing each other again and again, every single day. As we left that building and walked out into the city together, hand in hand, I thought about Marcus and the damage he'd tried to do. I thought about all the rejection letters, all the closed doors, all the moments when giving up would have been easier than pushing forward. And I realized that I wouldn't change any of it, because every rejection had led me to that personnel office. Every closed door had pushed me toward the one that was meant to open. Every moment of pain and doubt and struggle had been necessary to bring me here, to this moment, to this man, to this life I was building one choice at a time. Marcus had tried to blacklist me from the industry, to destroy my career and break my spirit, but he'd failed, because the most powerful man in the city had stepped in, not to rescue me, but to give me the chance to rescue myself. And in the process, we'd found something neither of us had been looking for, but both of us desperately needed. Love. Real, honest, complicated, beautiful love. And that, I thought, as Silas squeezed my hand and smiled at me with his whole heart in his eyes, was the best revenge of all. Not Marcus's downfall, but my happiness. Not his failure, but my success. Not proving him wrong, but proving to myself that I was strong enough, talented enough, worthy enough to claim the life I deserved. I was Elliot Chen, 25 years old, owner of a thriving design studio, and deeply, irrevocably in love with a man who saw me, all of me, and chose me anyway. And my story, our story, was just beginning.
The end.